And there's a feeling of nostalgia to proceedings here on 2 between now and 7:15, reliving the heydays of Lime Grove Studios. In 25 minutes, the last episode ever made of Georges Simenon's Maigret. Before which, Eamon Andrews produces the book he opened in 1964 to say to another unsuspecting candidate, "This is your life."
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now, tonight, This Is Your Life is hoping to introduce you to a very elusive lady, a fisherman's daughter who is known to as many millions today as she was to hundreds when she was a little girl. At this moment, we know, and she knows, that she's being filmed driving around Shepherd's Bush Green outside and towards the television center. But we know, and she doesn't know, that we intend to interrupt that journey and the filming, which is being made for another purpose altogether. Now, while I go outside and wait for her, I'd like you to listen to a record she made many years ago. And I wonder how many of you will recognize who it is. Let's see.
Here comes and drums and drums, hurroo, hurroo, with the drums and guns and guns and drums, hurroo, hurroo, with the drums and guns and guns and drums, the enemy nearly slew you. Why did you skedaddle from me as a child? Says Johnny, I hardly knew you.
Well, now, as I told you, she's driving around. There are two cars, one with a film camera, one with, I guess, the monitor and some other people in it. And they're driving around Shepherd's Bush Green right behind me and should be arriving at any moment. So let's wait and see what happens in all this tremendous traffic. Here we come. I see the camera car, so the other car can't be far behind. All right, out we come. This is it. No emergency in Tannock Brae tonight, Janet. How are you?
How are you?
Barbara Mullen, tonight, star of television, radio, screen. This is your life. And thank you very much, Dr. Cameron and Dr. Finley, for looking after the patient. Come on, in we go. There's a whole lot of people waiting for you. All right, relax. Well, Barbara, how did you like being taken for a ride, eh?
Oh, well, I was taken for the biggest ride. Oh, those two devils.
Well, now, Barbara Mullen, this is your life, and an exciting one it's been. But to begin with, you must settle a question that's perplexing half the nation today. Were you born in the Aran Islands of Scotland or the Aran Islands of Ireland?
I wasn't born in the Aran Islands of either.
You were born where?
I was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
USA, but in fact I think you regard the Aran Island off the coast of Galway as your real home.
Oh, well, they are, of course.
They are.
Yes.
So from Boston to Aran to London, a shy, young, almost unknown girl, you get the part which makes you overnight a theatre star in the West End of London. You play the title role in Jeannie at Wyndham's. The story of a quiet little girl, rather like yourself, who suddenly finds herself launched into a life of sophistication. You remember it well. Who was your leading man?
Eric.
Eric, indeed it was. And over 20 years later, he's your leading man again tonight. That distinguished star of stage and films, Eric Portman. Well, now, do sit down, Barbara. Eric, tell us how this poor lady is in a state of shock at the moment. How did she come to get this part?
Well, it was really a lot to do with myself, as a matter of fact, because
Indeed it was.
I'd seen you being auditioned for one of the smaller parts in this play, and I thought, well, that girl's got something, so why shouldn't she have a shot at the leading part, Jeannie?
And how did it work out?
Well, splendidly, of course. She made her name in it, and she had a new approach, something rather charming and subtle and unexpected. The audience was bowled over by it, and we had a long run.
It says Jeannie that you remember Barbara best, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. She made her name in that. She was quite wonderful in it, quite unique, quite special. And I know that the critics said that she was the actress of the year. Well, I think she's the actress of this year, too.
Thank you, Eric Portman. Now, Barbara, today you're known on both sides of the Atlantic, but when you were a little girl, there were only two people who really knew you well, your father and your mother. They'd met and married there, both Irish, both immigrants, but after a few years, your father decided poverty back home was preferable to the city life of Boston. So, hoping to send for the rest of the family as soon as he could, he took your brother Patrick and sailed back to Ireland and his beloved Isle of Arran. Now, tough days followed for you, your mother, and your sister Winnie, and often I believe you spent more days hiding from the police than you did going to school. And for the record, we've got a witness, a relative and near neighbor of you and your mother in Boston of nearly 40 years ago. Today, she still lives only 4 blocks away from the house in Boston, your cousin Mary Mullen Nolan. Mary, who's as surprised as you to be here tonight, I can tell you. How did Barbara's mother make a living when she had a family to support on her own?
Oh, she ran a speakeasy.
Now, I know what that means, but tell us exactly what was meant by a speakeasy then.
Well, those were the days of Prohibition, you know. And a speakeasy was a bar where the punching was made in the house, and the police were apt to raid any minute, and they did many times. Barbara's poor mother was on the run all the time.
And what did you do, Barbara, when there was a police raid? Hide under the table with your sister Winnie?
I did.
Sometimes hide the liquor as well, I gather, but we won't go into that now.
Yes. Well, whatever was necessary.
But in between raids, Mary, I believe that Barbara found time to dance.
She sure did. She'd do a jig at the drop of a hat, she would.
Did she win any cups for this dancing?
Oh, sure, 4 or 5 of them, I guess. When she was 7, she won the Massachusetts state. When she was 14, the New England championship. A few months later, the New York. And when she was 16, she was the champion step dancer for all the United States.
She must have been very proud of those cups.
Oh, she was. We were very proud of Barbara. And when her picture, Jeannie, came to Boston, the whole town turned out. And I'll say they were proud of Barbara.
Thank you, Mary Mullen.
Thank you.
Now, Barbara, while the dancing years go by in Boston, on Arran, your father, Pat Mullen, finds conditions no better than when he'd left. But one day, film producer Robert Flaherty approaches him and asks for help in making of a documentary film, which we all know, and which made Pat Mullen famous, and temporarily eases the poverty of the islanders. Needless to say, like us, you remember the film.
I do.
Man of Arran, a wonderful film. And you recognize, I'm sure, every step and stone and wave of this. Now, you yourself had never seen Arran, but to you, even then, it's home.
Oh, I knew every stone of Arran before I ever got to Arran.
And you got to Arran because somebody sent you £20 fare to make
My
the journey
brother,
possible.
yes.
And you sail on August the 9th, 1935, on board the Samaria. 2 weeks later, you make the coast of Galway. Your brother meets you and takes you on the steamer over to Arran. As you step off the boat, a man driving a white horse rushes down to the quayside to greet you.
And when I saw you, my heart jumped up in my throat.
You hadn't seen him for 14 years then. Tonight he's aged 81, the uncrowned king of Arran himself, your father, Pat Mullen. Now, Pat, this must have been a wonderful moment in your life, and just as wonderful when later on you saw Barbara starring in her first part.
It was. I was so pleased, but I wasn't surprised because I knew it was in you all the time. And I don't know, do you remember when you were only 3 years of age when we lost you in Boston in the Independence Night celebrations? And I found you at 3 o'clock in the morning and you dancing a reel to a tune played by an old Connemara woman on the sidewalk.
But, Barbara, when I said you were sent that £20 a moment ago, you said who had sent it to you?
Oh, my brother sent it to me. My brother, PJ.
PJ, Patrick Joseph. He also met you off that boat 29 years ago, and he meet you again tonight. Come in, your brother, PJ. Well, now, PJ, will you tell us, how did you feel at that famous family reunion, eh?
Well, I was thrilled, of course, but I was terrified as well, you know.
Why were you terrified?
Well, I thought I might lose her, you know, again so soon, and she was so tiny, and I was so proud of her.
Well, you didn't lose her because she stayed with you for 3 years, didn't she?
Yes, and we got to know one another so well during that time. I remember how you used to dance when I used to play the accordion for you.
Well, I know, Pat, that you, or PJ, that you've got your accordion right beside you there now, and that you've been practicing Boys of the Lock in case we could persuade Barbara to dance. It's St. Patrick's Week, Barbara, and your father's prepared to join you in a couple of hours. If you want to put your shoes off, that's up to you. Come on. Yes. Come on. Oh, yes, let's just see a minute. Come on, only a few words. Go on, Patrick. Well, now, there's so much to tell about your story. At the age of 20, Barbara, you write your autobiography, Life is My Adventure. The book is a success. Your family tried to talk you into taking up writing as a career, but you want to go on the stage. And you want it so much that after 3 years on the island, you come to London, manage to get a scholarship to the Webber Douglas School of Drama. On your first day there, you're taken to meet one of the teachers.
But when you spoke to me, I couldn't hear a word you said.
Your long-suffering teacher and great friend, Dolly Gibson. Now, will you tell us why, Mrs. Gibson, you couldn't make out what Barbara said?
Well, I think she had the tiniest voice I ever heard. And I think it came from the fact of all those escapades with the American police. But anyway, she came to stay with us, and I taught her elocution and singing for the 2 years she was at the Webber Douglas School.
Well, if the American police frightened her voice away, you certainly got it back, judging by the record we heard earlier on. Did you lose touch with Barbara when eventually she left the drama school?
How could I lose touch with Barbara when I'd come to love her like a daughter?
Yeah, but hold on, Dolly. You said that Barbara lived with you for 2 years while she was at the drama school. Where did she stay before that?
I can answer part of that question.
Flown from Barcelona by This Is Your Life, the man who was a great friend of yours, made those film classics, The Overlanders, Where No Vultures Fly. Director, yes, Henry Watts. Harry, tell me, was this a case of big director helping a struggling student?
Oh, no. I was a beginner, too, and I worked on Manor Baron, of course, and when I heard that Barbara was coming to London and to live on £2 a week, wasn't it? £2 a week, my wife and I asked her to stay with us.
So you were much better off than she was, then?
Oh, we'd all have £3.10 a week.
Did you encourage Barbara in her career?
No, every night I used to say, now, for God's sake, don't be an actress.
Be a writer.
Be a writer, that's it. Because she had a book published, you see. And, of course, she paid no attention to me at all, went straight on in this damn determined way she has.
Well, despite your advice and her lack of taking it, she eventually acted in one of your pictures.
Yes, in The Siege of Pinchgut. But, you know, when we're together, John and all the rest of it, we don't talk about show business, we talk about Aaron, don't we?
Yes.
And we're going to go back there and live with Bill Costello and Maggie Doreen and all those
Yes,
people.
we're all going to be together.
And, of course, and the Seals. Seals coming up in front of the house. You know, she's got a soft thing about Seals, because she's a great storyteller, Barbara, a terrible storyteller. I don't believe half she tells you, really. I think she gets them from the Seals.
Well, I'm afraid we can't produce a seal just at this minute, but thank you, Harry Watt and Dolly Gibson. Now, when your father was working on Man of Aaron with Harry Watt, he and PJ had become very friendly with the young man who acted as assistant cameraman. Your brother liked him so much, in fact, that he sent you his photograph to America with the remarkable words in his letter, "I feel in my bones that this is the man you will one day marry." Now, you didn't take much notice of him, but now as a drama student in London, somewhat impoverished as we gather, you remembered something else PJ had told you. You called on this man, smiled at him, no doubt charmingly, and said, "My brother told me if I was ever short of money, you'd lend me £1." Isn't that true?
It's true, yes.
Well, he gave you the £1 and later his name. Your husband, top documentary film producer, John Taylor. John, tell us, why did you lend her that £1?
Well, she was a hard-up Irish student, you know, and she had very persuasive blue eyes, and I think she often went very hungry in those days too, you know. And what with lending her £1 and buying her free feed now and again, I thought it might be cheaper in the long run to marry her.
Well, marry you did on the 21st of May, 1941, and you've lived happily ever after?
I'm satisfied. I don't know about her,
Ah,
though.
yes, you do.
And you've got a family too now, haven't you, Barbara?
We have, yes.
How many?
Bridget and Susan.
Bridget and Susan, that's right. Susan is the younger, isn't she? Where is she?
She's in Dublin.
Yes, well, she's not in Dublin. She's been given time off school. Here she is, Susan Taylor. Well, now, sit down there, Susan. I thought you said to us you wouldn't come unless we had the Beatles as well.
I changed my mind just for Mummy.
Indeed you did. And Barbara, while you're over here in London, I understand that, on Finley's casebook, that your other daughter, Bridget, is living with you.
Yes, she is.
Looking after you is more like it.
Your elder daughter, assistant film editor, Bridget Taylor. Now, Bridget, don't you think that your mother is capable of looking after herself?
Well, Daddy and I don't think so. She rushes off to rehearsal every morning so eagerly that she wouldn't have any breakfast unless we made her.
Well, who gets up first to make the breakfast?
I do. I have to. She puts 2 alarm clocks in my bedroom.
Susan, I believe that you're in charge of the pets back home in Dublin. What are they?
A dog called Chip and a horse called Gilhooly.
And how are they?
Oh, they're fine. They miss Mummy.
I bet they do. Thank you very much, Susan and Bridget Taylor. Well, 1941, 1942 were vintage years for Barbara Mullen, lucky in love, lucky in her career. Following the great success of Jeannie on the stage, she starred in the equally successful film version. Then followed The Bosun's Mate, The Gentle Gunman, and also in 1942, a very famous film indeed, which I know that you remember well, Barbara. Do you remember the one I'm talking about?
Oh, Thunder Rock, yes.
Thunder Rock, that's right. And with you in it, of course, was that veteran actor, Finlay Currie. Before you jump to the conclusion that he's waiting in the wings to come on, you're wrong. He's not. He's sitting in the front row of our audience. You haven't seen him for years.
Oh.
Here he is again, Finlay Currie. Well, now, Finlay, that film, Thunder Rock, was the first of several that you made with Barbara.
Yeah.
You were already an old hand, but it was still the beginning of Barbara's career. Can you remember your first impression of her as a young actress?
Oh, indeed I can, and very clearly. I remember that about 50 years ago, there was a very famous actress, Sarah Allgood in the Abbey, And she told me, she says, the true way to be a good actor is to remember this adage. Be natural and you'll never be awkward. And when I was watching Barbara and the various scenes in Thunder Rock, how beautifully they were played, I thought, well, there's a living example of that very saying.
Now, you played the part of a ship's captain, and Barbara was a rather severe young suffragette.
Oh, that was just on the screen. She's a sweet creature, Rachel, you know. Oh, she is really very nice. But I remember one day we were sitting at lunch, and she said to me, her blue eyes twinkling, she said, you know, I'm not lace curtain Irish, I'm shanty Irish. Yeah, which is even better than that, because they say the Irish in Boston are Irish and a half. I don't know how true that is.
And what do you think of her now, Finlay, as a Scottish housekeeper in Finlay's casebook?
Oh, well, now, as a true blue Highlander, I can only say this, that as an Irish girl brought up in Ireland and brought up in America and married to an Englishman, she makes a wonderful Scotswoman.
Well, you couldn't say anything more Irish than that. Thank you, Finlay Curry. Lovely to see you.
Good-bye, my darling. Glad to see you. God bless you.
Well, now, Barbara, your performance as Janet in Dr. Finlay's casebook has made you one of television's personalities of 1964. Every Sunday, millions of viewers watch you as you open the door to visitors and pour out the tea for Doctors Cameron and Finlay.
But tonight, we are going to reverse the roles.
We are going to pour out the tea for you.
Those two men in your life from Tannockbrae, Dr. Cameron, Andrew Cruikshank, Dr. Finlay, Bill Simpson. Well, now, Andrew, it must be a very enjoyable experience working with such a fine artist as Barbara.
No, it is terrible.
What do you mean, terrible?
She will not take me seriously.
Well, Bill, it must be helpful anyway for you to work with Barbara because of her high sense of drama.
Oh, no, it's terrible.
What do you mean, terrible?
Ah, she's far too good. She doesn't give you a chance.
We've brought on Barbara's television family. I want to complete Barbara's real family and a little surprise. So please come in once more. Susan, Bridget, Pat, and Mary, would you come in with a little surprise? Now, Barbara, I happen to know, and a lot of people don't know, how much you treasure those cups that you won for dancing 20 years ago and that you never thought you'd have them again. I don't know how, but we found them in Boston. Here are those dancing cups that you won as a little girl. Isn't that nice? But Mary, you didn't bring them over, did you?
No, I didn't.
And they didn't come of their own accord either. They were brought by a very special messenger who, like Mary, has flown 3,000 miles to surprise you. You've only seen her once in 30 years. That same girl who used to hide under the tables with you when the police raided your sister, Winnie. And Barbara, your nephew, Eddie. And the niece that you've never seen, you're going to see her for the first time, Eileen Bernadette. Come on, Eileen. And finally, Barbara, I've got a little telegram here that sends good luck and love from Big Bill Costello, Julia Flaherty, Bill Gorham, Maggie Duran, and one special islander who may arrive in person, but we haven't time to wait. Barbara Mullen, this is your leg.
Eamon Andrews' surprised guest in 2 weeks' time will be Sybil Thorndike.
is her mother's second child. If she's lucky, she'll live beyond 50. But 1 in 6 of her generation will die before they are 5.
In 1983, the World Health Organization and UNICEF joined forces on a massive vaccination program to rid the world of the 6 killer diseases: measles, tuberculosis, diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus, and polio.
The virus has certainly been circulating around here. The conditions are perfect. Dirty hands, contaminated food, even a sneeze could be the source of infection.
A worldwide battle against disease in The Planned Miracle, a 3-part series beginning tomorrow at 7:40 on 2.